Good morning, guys. Today, our readers, I want to make you aware that we're with a married couple, Hailey and Clarence Gibson. You guys are from Columbia, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Lexington County.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We ran a story a few weeks back about a lab that DSS uses that was rated. I'll show you a picture of that lab right now. Um, Here's the lab in question. And we said at the time that it was a lab used by DSS. There were several other news agencies that went online and tried to claim those stories weren't true. However, it has been since confirmed that those stories were true. Today, we're with Hailey and Clarence Gibson. Hailey's had some experiences with these labs. And Hailey, I invite you right now to tell us about your experience with those labs. So,
Um,
have at it. Tell us what happened and tell us about your family, your kids, and what happened.
um, well, when we first got involved with DSS, we had 4 kids at the time, and I was pregnant with my fifth. So the allegations were from a former employer of mine, and when the DSS investigator got involved, she told me it was allegations of drug abuse, and I had no reason to lie or try to hide it, and I basically felt the need at the time to just clear my name and do whatever I had to do to cooperate. So the investigator wanted only my children, but not myself, to go be tested at a local lab here called Art Point. And I took 2 of the children the same day, and approximately 2 weeks later, we got a call from the same investigator saying that my 2 daughters had tested positive for deadly levels of cocaine and meth and drugs that I've never seen in my life. And I just completely lost it at the time. And the funny thing to me was they only wanted to create a safety plan for these allegations. And so when I went to DSS to create a safety plan with my mom, after me and my mom had at that point then went and taken our drug test as well, because I was freaking out telling the investigator that I wanted to clear my own name because I knew that these drug tests couldn't be possible. I didn't know at the time that it could be something corrupt with DSS. I didn't know what the mistake was from.
Well,
So me
tell
and my
our
mom
tell our readers about the safety plan because that's where you really get into trouble once you sign off on one of those. Explain a safety plan to our readers.
yeah, well, the safety plan is something that you set up with DSS, and they'll make you believe, and they'll tell you it's like a good thing. You're not losing any of your rights. Everything's still the same. You just have to have like an in-home protector that, and I think it expires. It's supposed to expire after 90 days, I believe. But once that 90 days comes and goes, you'll realize that they don't really tell you you're free at that point to not have this person in your life anymore. So then after it expires, if you go and you take your kids and they find you in violation of that, they're then going to try to come in and remove your kids. And at any point in time, if they are not happy with the way that you're working with them, I think that kind of gives them leverage to come in and just snatch the kids from under you. Because
Right.
in this safety plan at the bottom, you'll see a little box, and you're basically agreeing that if you violate it in any way, they can remove your kids. And I have a copy that I received the same day we created it. Well, I later found out through court files, they went back and edited my safety plan and wrote things in it that they didn't initially write in it. And I've got both plans to show where somebody definitely altered it.
But
So,
not only that, it had all the wrong kids' names on it. The safety plan that they brought to us, every kid name on it was the wrong last name. It was like the last name Gordon.
Yeah, they changed my children's last names. They changed their date of births. So I was initially told my 2 girls had failed their drug test, and then it later came like weeks later that me, my mom, and my other 2 children had passed ours. Well, on the determination fact sheet that they indicated us for neglect with, they said all the children tested positive for illegal drugs, but they didn't name what illegal drugs there was, and that was my big issue. So I just didn't
The
stop demanding those test results from DSS, and it led me to, well, I requested to go to family court thinking that we would get justice with that, and that's where it really just went worse because at that point, the family court was a nightmare.
did you feel like the family court was kind of in on it?
Definitely. Yeah,
Guardian ad litem, the judge, your
yeah,
law, the
they
whole work.
they
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought the same thing because when the case first was initiated, I was incarcerated for like 2 months prior for driving without a driver's license. So when the caseworker came when the case started, the caseworker came and visited me while I was in Lexington County, and she told me that she was what the allegations was and stuff, and she said like that she was bringing the like she was trying to test the kids at that time, and I got out maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, and I went straight to get tested, and somehow they still put me on the case and labeling me as neglect also.
even though he was incarcerated for these driving charges at the time. So I
So
mean there was
Haley,
this
tell us about these tests. So you get
um
tested. What happens to these tests?
so when you go to the lab and get tested, well, when you go to these local labs, all you're going to get is a CCF, which is the custody control form, and you'll have to sign it agreeing to take. It'll show you the type of test you're taking, the panel, and your information. And I kept every form after they initially said my girls had failed. And the labs, the testing documents, I've got over 45 custody control forms with me now, and there is a slew. Every time we would go to the lab, the same lab to test every time, they would have a different contracted lab on our documents, but it would always be the same MRO's name on these custody control forms. So I don't know how he's pulling it off, working for 20 different labs.
Who is the he we're talking about here?
His name is David Naheen, and I've met, well, not met with, but I have been introduced to families from here to Texas through social media, and apparently a lot of families are going through this. Right now, I'm helping out a young lady in Florence that's going through this, and she still doesn't have her boys back yet. And she actually went and got her own test to prove that these were false results, and DSS will not look at it. And your court appointed attorneys, they will not submit these the proof that you have to show that he is fraudulent and that these test results are suspicious. They will not even acknowledge it in court. I believe the judges tell the attorneys and the guardian ad litems to not even mention it. They don't want it on record.
So you became a detective and you looked into Mr. Naheen. Now he's since passed away, but
Yes,
you
sir.
reached out to Wisconsin. You asked yourself, how can this one guy be supervising all of these different lab tests over what, multiple states?
Yeah, about at least 5 that I know of, but at least 10 different labs. And we started off with our attorneys, pressuring them. My husband actually made a because when your kids are removed on an emergency removal, you have a 72-hour hearing where you can present the judge an affidavit. They removed our kids on Friday afternoon, and our hearing was like a Monday morning, so we didn't have time to take it to the courthouse. Well, my husband broke it down and put all the evidence in this affidavit, and the family court judge actually got on this conference and threatened to arrest my husband if he ever sent something to her private email again. They were really mad about that, but they didn't acknowledge it. I wrote Michael Leach. I wrote Senator Katrina Shealy. I wrote the FBI. We went to SLED, and I've actually got each one of their responses. There's a response I have in particular saying that, like, the management division of DSS looked into our test and found nothing fraudulent with it. To contact the children's advocacy network, but they can't explain why they're not fraudulent. So I kind of have them all nailed with their responses.
So they're basically, as a parent, you're guilty till proven innocent, more
Definitely,
or less.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
And
much.
what ultimately happened once she became the detective, once she began looking into this and saw a lot of suspicious stuff. I know you reached out to the FBI. We have another person we're working with it also. And the lab was rated. To the FBI's credit, the lab was rated, or a lab, one of the labs was rated. However, we all know that government doesn't usually eat its own. So it's kind of hard to
Right.
get a government agency to indict another government agency, even though we're talking about federal and state. How did this ultimately play out for you guys? Do you have your children today?
We do. We have full custody. We're not no longer involved with DSS services, but you would think maybe that you would catch this unbelievably horrific fraud and your kids would come home. That's not the case. It's just not how it goes. You're going to do what they say and how they say to do it, following their parenting plan that they have to put into court. Actually, when we started pushing back with them, and I don't regret doing it because I know it serves a bigger purpose, but it definitely caused more harm for me because, like, my husband's dad passed away in the middle of our kids being gone, and they wouldn't even bring the children to the funeral. We missed Christmas, we missed birthdays. It was really bad.
How many years did this go on, Hailey?
It was a 7-month time span that we had.
7-month period. Okay.
But our case lasted for like what, 2-3 years?
Oh yeah. The case in all our DSS
They
killings
didn't take our kids to like the last 9 months of the 3 years.
Okay. But ultimately, the DSS worker that was giving you guys a hard time, what happened to her?
She's still
What
at
did she
DSS.
ultimately do? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I asked her one day when she came to our house before the removal, she was threatening him, and I told her, I said, Camby, you know that this is BS what y'all are doing. Do you agree with this? And she said, Hailey, we do a lot of things that I don't agree with. I don't necessarily agree with. I do feel like she had a soul somewhere inside of her that she was being like twisted to do these things. But I mean, they're still there. There's been no kind of accountability held for this. You know, you reach out to agencies and they'll be quick to tell you Naheem is dead, so therefore we aren't under any authority to investigate this. But also on the other side of this, yes, Naheem is dead, and people are still missing their children because of this man, and he's never held accountable. I've got emails to attorneys saying I wanted him subpoenaed. You know, these are our rights that we have as parents and people, and they are just looking at us like we have no rights at all.
So
But
I want to
instead
tell.
of them,
Go ahead.
but instead of them subpoenaing David Naheem when we questioned them too, they ended up sending his bookkeeper,
A records
his
custodian at another lab to testify at our trial, and she didn't have any knowledge of us or any. It was completely
she didn't
pointless.
even bring any paperwork to court. Like she got subpoenaed and was supposed to bring all documents and proof of the
Correct.
test and everything, and she didn't even bring anything. What really made us start into everything is our kids went and took a 7-panel hair follicle test, and the results came back as a 5-panel hair follicle test. So that's why fighting and looking into everything.
Yeah, because the local lab
So
said that's impossible.
yeah. So long story short, DSS, you got your kids back, correct?
Right.
And DSS
Yes,
kind
sir.
of, for the moment, has gone away.
Yes.
Yes.
But you guys are what my industry calls whistleblowers. You're whistleblowers. I mean, that are y'all concerned about coming forward? Are you concerned about sharing your story?
No,
No,
not at all.
sir. Because
Well, I'm
the
not.
last thing the last thing my dad said to me, dad talked for 2 hours before he passed away, and like the last thing he said to me was, my nickname is Bob, and he was like, Bob, I don't care how hard y'all gotta fight, y'all fight to get those kids home, and like that, like we ended up getting our kids home what, 2 months after he passed away, or was it like a month and a half?
Yes, somewhere in that time frame. But
And you
we
guys
decided
just had a
we were going to
newborn.
fight.
You guys
Yes,
just
sir.
had a newborn as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We
Yes, sir.
we're going to continue. There are people who say that DSS is unaware of what's going on with these labs. I have my questions or concerns about that. Do y'all think DSS is unaware of what this lab work is and what's going on?
No, they're
Yes,
definitely
sir. They're
aware of
aware
it. I've
because
got
like.
emails that I've sent to the
Yeah, like my
directors.
wife stated in the front in the beginning, she got like so many emails and like someone within the senator's office, I'm not gonna say no name, me and her became very close and like she everything that we was going through, I was letting her know, and she was like encouraging me and like basically like telling me what was going on. So
She knows it's
they was
rough.
well aware of what was going on.
So, for my audience, I just want to tell you guys because you don't know what Hailey and Clarence have been through, and you don't know what this is about. The adoption business in America is a $54 billion annual industry. What happens to people is they get their rights, they have a TPR, they have terminated parental rights. Their kids are then put up for adoption. The state gets paid by the federal government to put the kids up for adoption. On top of that, many of the very lawyers working in family court and along with DSS are then referred to adopt the children out. A typical adoption will cost a parent $30,000 to $50,000 a year. There's money in this, not little money, big money. And very few people are willing to stand up and fight for their rights against this very entrenched system. Here is an example of two people working as one that did. And I just want to thank you guys for coming on, for sharing your story, because we all know what a big system it is and how much you're up against. I hope that DSS will leave you alone now. Is that what y'all are anticipating?
That's what I hope
Oh,
for. But if they choose to come back, I'm ready to continue to take my notes and investigate and stand out because it's something that we all have to live for a purpose, and what greater purpose than to fight for your children and the families across the world that can't speak out or don't have the money for good attorneys. Like I'm willing to take it as far as they want to go because I will continue to gather my proof and documents, and it would ultimately not go good for them either.
Well, thank you
no,
guys for.
because our kids are still traumatized about it. Like even though like it happened a year ago or longer, our kids are still like traumatized. Like they fear. Like we had family that ended up getting our kids, and like they fear our family member now because like they tried to keep our boys after everything like was about over.
Yeah, the kids really suffer the most. It's a trauma that us parents don't understand. We're not really put through anything in comparison to what the kids go through. I couldn't have imagined as a child being just ripped away and put in some strange location. Like the end results, that like aftermath. You can't even speak on it because it's so horrific. It's something that can change lives forever.
and you
Yeah, they
guys
sent our two boys all the way. Well, it was like right on the border of North Carolina.
and you guys live in Columbia, which
Yes,
Yes,
is
sir.
sir.
that's terrible. Now, you guys have been married for quite a long time, I understand. Is that not true?
Yes, sir. 11 years.
And none of this caused you guys to not stand together, which is phenomenal. Thank you.
No, sir. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on, guys. We appreciate that so much. It was very courageous. Thank you so
Yeah,
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
I wish it could last longer, like, cause we got like we can put a book together like what we've been through with this. It's crazy.
We're
Like
gonna
our attorneys like was well aware of everything.
we're gonna include all those documents that y'all sent us in our
Yeah.
article. We will
Yes,
embed
sir.
them.
Please do.
We will. We'll make certain our audience knows what, I hate to use this word, but what a hell you went through.
Yeah,
Okay?
Yeah,
no.
that's exactly what it was. Like on top of like losing my daddy, like man, my wife got to talking about this yesterday, man, and like I just bawled like thinking about like my on top of the kids going through that, and on top of losing my daddy, like I ain't really get to mourn it like I wanted to. So
Yeah.
I still got some healing to do.
We definitely appreciate you putting the story out there because it's also something that you don't find many like professionals, attorneys, or like reporters willing to speak on. Not truthfully, anyway. I found a lot of articles about the lab raid, and they want to talk about COVID, but like you're also very courageous, and I really appreciate you sticking up for families as well.
Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Definitely. Thank you for inviting us on.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.